All right, I think we're live. Welcome everyone to another Maran Motoring live stream here on this Sunday evening. Hope you're all having a great day here and a great weekend. And we're gonna go for about 2 hours or so here, like we always do. I'll give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, and as well as also giving priority answering to the members here in their green usernames there. So anyway, thanks for joining in, everyone. Here I see we have Triton Car Guy, Jasvo, Austin, and Kyle, and Scott and Wheatman, Joe, Jesus. Thanks so much for joining in, everyone. And so I'm just going to get right into the questions here. So I see Triton Car Guy says, hi from Arizona. Austin says, hey, Matt, I think the Cybertruck is going to be a success despite its controversial design and increased cost. Every review I've seen so far has been overwhelmingly positive. Yeah, I mean, I'll have to wait until I can drive it, if I ever get to drive it, and see what happens. The only thing I will say about reviews so far, I haven't seen any of the reviews. And a couple of people that I have seen that have done reviews, like Jason Camisa is awesome. I personally have met him. He's a great guy. I think he's an awesome reviewer. But I kind of wonder, because I don't know, because Tesla doesn't really have a PR team per se. They don't do press cars. They don't do launch events really. They gave a few people access to these trucks, and I just kind of wonder if there was any caveats there or any kind of conditions. I'm not saying that any of those reviews aren't 100% truthful, or that they're not being unbiased. Especially Jason Camises, I'm inclined to believe that he's saying everything that's just on the top of his head, and he's not the type of person to back down. If a car is crap, I think he would say it's crap. But I just wonder with some of the others, especially that might either be kind of newer to the car reviewing world, or just when you're given that kind of access, you're one of 10 people maybe that got to drive that truck. There's pressure there. Even if you're not, in love with Tesla or something, just the pressure to be like, hey, look, you are one of the top people. And hopefully, you'll be able to stick to your guns and still be like, I'm going to bash it if it's crap. But, I'm sure there was Tesla reps there while they were doing the filming. I'm sure that they were overseeing everything and all that. Again, I have no clue. I just, it wasn't a normal media drive where you have a good mix of people reviewing it. So I don't know. I think there is more to be told to the Cybertruck story, in my opinion. We will see how this story develops. I, never want to see anything do badly. I want to see every car do well. I do have my reservations about the Cybertruck. It's a controversial thing, so I won't get into it more unless people want me to get into it here. But I'll just say that it's kind of controversial. I think there's some good and some bad, and I'll just leave it at that for now, so we don't get too behind on comments. But if you guys want to hear more of my Cybertruck, opinions and just that whole thing, I can certainly chime in more. But anyway, we'll leave it at that for now. But Austin says, when the concept was unveiled, I thought it looked stupid, but now I kind of understand the desire to push design paradigms. Yeah, I mean, styling is subjective. This is one of those times where that statement really comes in handy so that it gives me a nice cop out. I still hate the design myself. I know a lot of others do, but hey, if you like it, that's great. It'd be boring if we all like the same thing. So no hate to anyone that enjoys the design there. Let me see. So Austin also says, yeah, I watched some of the videos of Tesla chief engineers, and now a lot of the delays make more sense. They really had to come up with new manufacturing techniques to make it a reality. And I mean, some of their manufacturing techniques for just Tesla in general are still super impressive. Toyota was blown away seeing the GigaPress stuff, and basically reverse engineered it for, their upcoming stuff here in a few years. So, I mean, credit where credit's due. I mean, Tesla has some amazing feats, but like any other car company, they have a lot of, not great things as well. And so it's, it's just, everyone's got their strengths. But I see Scott also says, did you see the Chevy Christmas commercial that's gone viral? One of the better ones I've seen in years. I have not seen that. I didn't even know that was a thing. That's awesome. I have to look that up. Thanks for the heads up, Scott. And thanks for joining in, Wheatman. It says good evening. And let me see. Jordan says, hey, Matt, my husband couldn't make it tonight, but I'm here for this awesome segment. Thanks for joining in, Jordan. I really appreciate it. And Estevan says, I wonder how reproducible the Cybertrucks are without sacrificing what marginal quality Teslas currently have. We will see. That's, part of the story as well, I think, is how how production, models will survive out in the wild with consumers. And yeah, we'll see. And Esavanov said Camisa's video felt more like an ad than a review. Yeah, and we'll just have to see. We will have to see. B. Mitchell said, yeah, Tesla lost it to me when they sacked their entire PR department. Yeah. So again, I haven't watched Camisa's video. I just know that he's an awesome person, but I have no clue what the dynamic is like over at Haggerty as far as what gets put into the script, how much control everyone has over what gets put out and all that. So I have no clue. I'd be inclined to believe Camisa, but again, yeah, who knows what other factors are at play there. Especially if it seemed like an ad, then that's not great. So, but again, that's part of the, I guess, especially whenever you're doing a super rare thing with only a few people, again, I just feel like there are kind of strings attached at that point, because you are like that access is valuable. It's extremely valuable. And, and even huge channels, that would have done a great review didn't get invited to that. So, why were the people chosen that were chosen? Obviously, I mean, Haggerty does some of the best videos out there, so it's no contest there. But there was other people that did videos too, and it's like, how are those people chosen versus others, that might have also done good reviews? I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting how the Cybertruck thing was this week. Wheatman says, did you see the new Genesis concept car? If it's come out in the past week, then no, I have not seen any new Genesis concept car in a few months at least. So maybe I missed something. Thanks for letting me know. We might have to check it out. Maybe Mitchell said Camisa may call it as he sees it, but he is a shill for Haggerty. I mean, if he's working for Haggerty, I mean, to me, that's understandable. If he's, I think Haggerty's great too. I don't have anything against them. So, I mean, I think it's appropriate for him to be giving shout outs to Haggerty since, he's employed by them and they give him amazing opportunities and amazing budgets and amazing resources to do amazing videos. Man, it must be nice to be Haggerty, to have so much money to burn. It is just wild. And Guardian says, yeah, I never watched any of the reviews. I don't know them. Would watch Matt, Straight Pipes, Doug DeMuro, and others I follow. Yeah, and hopefully they will offer more people opportunities to review them at some point. We will see. Obviously, at least as they get into consumer hands, I'm sure some of those reviewers might be up for having a, subscriber offer them a car or something. Like, I often do some of my videos, especially the cars I can't get my hands on, very easily. But let me see. Kyle also says, I'd be nervous about owning the Cybertruck, everyone wanting to approach it and all the attention. Yeah, it's like a lot of stuff. That's kind of one of the downsides of having any kind of exotic or anything new or exciting at all. It's just like having to deal with, whether it's just conversations at gas stations or it's, people just swarming you or whatever. And especially with stuff like the Cybertruck, there's a lot of negative there as well. So it's not even just like, all positive attention. It's also like hate that you get. Like, I mean, even, it wasn't, I don't think to this extent, but even, last summer when I had a Hummer for a week, I mean, it got a lot of people that were really excited about it, but like, there was a few people that like kind of gave me the side eye, like, ew, like, how, I'm trying to think of a PG way to say this, but like, how insecure are you, I suppose, to be driving this gigantic Hummer. And, I mean, there's some of that comes with giant vehicles like that, and so it's yeah, I would not want to own a Cybertruck for a variety of reasons, but that's certainly one of them. Double Strike says, good evening, sending positive thoughts into the world for your Envision 74 theory. I may have a new car in 18 months apparently. Yeah, I hope so. He's referring to in this past weekly update, if you didn't see it, there is a quote by the Hyundai product planner that was essentially, it was a CarBuzz interview. She essentially said, we have more surprises coming. And she's like, we put out a lot of awesome concepts. There's a lot of things that people really fell in love with. And some of those things, are going to become a reality. It's kind of how she said it. And even CarBuzz didn't read into it the way I did, but like first thing I was like, ding, 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 Envision 74. Like that's what it set off for me. Cause like what other, I mean, maybe the Genesis coupe concept people really fell in love with as well. So that's in the running, but she said multiple surprises. So I think there's even room for both, but you know, the Genesis coupes, which have been basically pretty much confirmed, I think, even if it's not official, I know dealers basically, I think confirmed that. But the Genesis coupe thing, it's going to be a Bentley competitor supposedly or whatever, according to dealers at least. And then I'm hoping the Envision 74 actually gets built. And I'm right there with you, Double Strike. There are there's hasn't been a car yet that I actually like wanted badly enough to get rid of the Bullet for. And I mean, I still don't know if I will ever get rid of the Bullet, but if there was a car that would tempt me out of it, if they put the powertrain from the Ionx 5N with the fake upshifts and stuff, if that actually turns out to be as good as it sounds like it is, I'm hopefully going to be reviewing that in the spring, in Ionx 5N. But if that thing rocks, and then you put that powertrain or even a slower version of that powertrain with the fake shifts, the fake sounds, all that stuff into an Envision 74 and keep it looking that good, that is really going to be a tough one. That'll be, you know, again, we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out, but that one could really be strongly tempting for me. So we'll have to see. But anyway, yeah, so fingers crossed for both of us here, Double Strike. Jordan says, do you think Hyundai is heading towards more angular designs, Ioniq 5, because of all the hype of the Cybertruck even before finally being produced? I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. You know, I think that the hype around the Cybertruck was mostly, at least back in, 2019 when it first came out, most of that hype was the fact that Tesla was finally doing a truck and it was going to, be insanely fast and awesome. And this was before the days of Hummer EV. This was before the days of any of the electric trucks that are out there. And so it was really mind blowing when you look at it in the 2019 mindset, before the Hummer was a thing, before all this other stuff. I know even back then people hated the styling, and I think even these days people still hate the styling. So like to me, I don't know, I don't think anyone would be inspired by the design, at least from a car designer standpoint. From all the interviews and things that I've heard, like other OEMs were like laughing at the Cybertruck and thought it was the most absurd, insane thing in a bad way, not in a good way. And I don't think anyone was inspired by the Cybertruck personally, even if it is a wild hit. I think most car companies will recognize that only Tesla could get away with something that goofy and have it be a success. I don't think any other company would have been taken seriously if they put that out. To be totally honest, and honestly, people don't even take Tesla seriously for either way they end up doing the Cybertruck. And there's still a lot of problems about that design that again will be part of the story of how successful this vehicle actually is in the real world whenever people are actually driving them and having to deal with the visibility of the Cybertruck, which is not great, have to deal with a windshield wiper thing, which isn't great, with the safety of it, which is debatable from the things I've seen, at least, not only to the occupants but also to people around the vehicle. There's just a lot of stuff still about that, but I think that no other car company is going to try and duplicate that. I think the Hyundai stuff, you also have to keep in mind a lot of these designs are, way done in advance. Obviously, like with the Santa Fe from Hyundai, like there was some inspiration from Defender. But Defender wasn't the first one to do that type of look. The Defender also it's just a round headlamp, boxy thing. The Wrangler could have been an inspiration as well. It could have been a bunch of other things. So it's, I think that a lot of that stuff gets worked in ahead of time and usually don't see like a last minute design change just to follow another car trend or something like that typically. But let me see other questions here. So I see Guardian saying congrats to Chris Jr. Chris Jr. says, hey, Matt, after watching You're That Dude in Blue Mustang GT review multiple times over the years, I finally was able to buy a 2014 Mustang GT, my dream car. That's awesome. Congrats. And I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, they're still so much fun. I still love that generation. The last of the S197s were so fun. I came so close to trading in my BRZ for one back in the day because I loved that style and that design. And so I'm so happy you're able to finally get your dream car. I hope you enjoy it to the fullest and have a blast with it. So congrats, Chris, and thanks for tuning in as well. And let me see. So Jazz says, Matt, do you know why Ionx 6 is a long wait and not on lots? Seems like there are a lot of Ionx 5s on the lots. That must be around where you are, Jazz, because I actually just read an article this week saying that Ionx 6s are actually selling pretty slowly, and that they are on lots. There's rebates as a result. There's been like incentives from Hyundai already for them and stuff. So maybe that's where you're at. I'm not sure where you've heard about a long wait, but anyone who's waiting is waiting because they don't want to travel to another dealer that has stock, because there is stock out there. So I mean, that's a good thing, but yeah, shouldn't be an issue to get an Ionx 6 from everything I've seen, at least. And Austin says, Top Gear did a drag race between the Hummer EV and the Cybertruck, and the Cybertruck walked it easily. It was pretty impressive. Yeah, I mean, and that's predictable because it's so much lighter, yet it's similar power to the Hummer. And the thing you have to keep in mind too is the Hummer is way more off-road ready. It's got a lot more gear for actual off-roaders, and so it's set up, to be more dedicated. So it's kind of like drag racing a 392 Wrangler versus a 392 Durango or something. Maybe not the best comparison, but something like that, where it's like you have one that's more street optimized, one that's not. And I mean, even just look at the 0 to 60s. I think the Hummer's a claimed 3-second or 3.1 second 0 to 60 versus 2.6, right, for the Cybertruck. So I mean, if that's I didn't see which one they were testing, if it was the Cyber Beast thing or if it was the regular mid-level one. But if it's, especially with the Cyber Beast, I mean, it's supposed to be faster, so that totally makes sense. But yeah, I mean, if people are excited about the Cybertruck, more power to them. We'll see again how it all plays out. Tom, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, Mark 8 GTI, a good upgrade from a 2018 Focus ST. I've heard mixed reviews. Bad infotainment, good audio system, great handling, but lacking character. How does it compare to a Civic Si? So compared to Civic Si, I mean, Mark 8 GTI is going to feel punchier, but the driver inputs aren't as good, in my opinion, at least. Civic has better steering, it has better brakes, it has better shifting, better shifter. Yeah, I'd say throttle response is a little bit better. And I mean, to me, stereo is also better in the SI because it's a Bose stereo. The one, I don't know who loves the stereo in the GTI. It's fine. It's decent. It's not terrible, but it's certainly not amazing. I think the Bose is definitely better in the Civic. And infotainment's better in the Civic. Materials are actually better in the Civic. You get some metal switchgear in the Civic. You don't get, I mean, it's just, screens and, plastic buttons in the GTI. So Civic is a better interior in all the ways, in my opinion. So, as far as all those things, I'd say SI is definitely better. GTI is punchier. GTI, especially if you get a GTI with the adaptive dampers, you're going to have a better ride. SI can be a little bit stiff with the ride. And you also have the hatch in the GTI. So, again, depending on your budget, the hatch and the adaptive dampers can be had in the Integra A-Spec, so that would kind of be my thing I would defer to if, you test drive an SI and you want something a little bit nicer. You also get a better stereo in the Integra, so that's another thing. If you want to get up to par with the GTI, again, I know that puts you maybe at a higher price point if you're going for a base GTI, but, the Integra is 36 with the manual, I believe, 37. So pretty similar to, probably the average transaction price for a GTI anyway. So, maybe consider the Integra if you're looking for something like that. I mean, I'd say that all the Civic Si, the GTI, and even the Integra all have probably a little less character than the Focus ST that you're coming from, just because that, is a little more torque steery. It's a little more alive. That was really, I think those STs from Ford were just all so fantastic. And yeah, I think they're all, honestly, you're going to miss a little bit of character in all of those three. I think if you want to retain the character, I don't know if a Focus RS is in the cards for you, but that could maybe be a nice upgrade if you are looking to upgrade from a Focus and you like your Focus. Just upgrade to the next level. They're going for the RS. And Little Rockstar RS, by the way, has one. So if you guys want to chat, I'm sure that Blaze can give you some extra info there on his RS. Yeah, I think it's the GTI is good. It's a nice commuter. I really did enjoy the one that I had. And I really did fall for it a little bit more than past Volkswagens. But I still think that Honda does all the driver input stuff better, and just everything else is just the again interior. Just I won't repeat myself, but yeah, I definitely, if it were me, I would probably be okay having a little bit less power and going for the SI over a GTI personally. But again, everyone likes something different, and you are giving up a good bit of power going for the SI. So just keep that in mind. But to me, the SI is fun enough for a daily driver, and that'd probably be the way I would go personally. But hopefully that helps you, Tom, and thank you so much for the super chat. And getting back to the other questions here, Kylan says, if you could go back, what's one piece of advice you would give Super WRX fan? That's a really good question. That's a cool question. Thanks for asking, Kylan. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I would say, I mean, there's all kinds of things I could say if you're going back in time of just ways to, I guess, cheat the system in a way and being like, hey, look, this will be a really popular thing to do. Like, do this trend ahead of time, or, just something like that. But I mean, aside from just like, if I were just still just, not trying to cheat or, get the sports almanac for 2020 or whatever, and instead just, give myself advice, for someone starting out at a car review channel or something today. I would just say, it really is about, who and, it's a lot of it is the relationship thing. But I think one thing, one critical thing that I think I made a mistake on, that I did right in the beginning that I kind of abandoned was the dealers. I used to do a lot more dealership stuff, and I didn't wait around for a press car, many, many years ago. And since then, I can do a better video with a press car. I have it for a whole week. I can do a more in-depth video. I get a better feel for the car. I can get more shots like those rolling shots that you see that I get. All that stuff's possible because I have the vehicle for a week. So whenever I do a dealer review or I do, a personally owned vehicle, it's a crunch time period. I only have a little sample with the car for a couple of hours and that's it. And it's a lot more work. And I think that, the press cars are easy and they do allow for a better video. So for those two reasons, it was kind of a win-win. Oh, I'll just wait around for a press car to show up and I'll wait and hopefully go on a media drive or something like that. And instead of, I think a little bit more of like pounding the pavement back in the early days of driving all over the place, filming everyone's cars, going to dealerships. And I've recognized that, some of the fastest growing channels these days, like Rady's Rides and like Car Confections, they are going to the dealerships and they're, getting cars before a lot of us get a chance to get our hands on them. And I think that is a key advantage that they have. And it's something I used to do that I gave up. And I really am kicking myself now for not keeping up with that stuff in addition to the press cars and all that stuff, and not taking the easy way out and instead just, going out and doing that. And that's something I've been trying to get back to. I actually just drove 7.5 hours round trip this week to go film a car that I can't get my hands on the press fleet. And I was like, okay, I had a subscriber offer to me. I'm like, I'm going to just do it. It's not easy. I kill an entire day of work going there and back just to film one review instead of, with cars dropped off in my driveway, I can film a review, in a couple of hours and I have the rest of the day to still be productive. But, it's just one of those things that I gotta get back out on the road. I gotta just go where the cars are, get the videos filmed, because it really is about, being early as much as possible, getting stuff that no one else can get, and trying to differentiate yourself in the sea of competition these days. So I think I would tell a Super WRX fan, keep doing the dealership stuff. Don't just go all for the press cars and the media drives. It's glamorous. It's convenient. It's easy. It's really like looked at as the next level up. Like, wow, you now get cars officially from the manufacturer and you go on the actual launches. And especially in the launches, in that case, you are the first people in the world to drive the car, outside of the company. So those are still immensely valuable. But as far as the press car, sometimes it really screws me waiting for a press car when I know my dealer has one. And, I wish that I had kept up a lot of those relationships, but I'm going back to Harrison Auto Sales where I do, the used car reviews. Now I'm doing more of those and getting back to that stuff because I think a lot of you really enjoy those as well. So I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've come to realize this year is that I really shouldn't have abandoned that stuff. And so I'm going to hope to try and, get back to that and, see how it goes. But yeah, great question, Kylan. Thanks so much for asking that. Kevin says, hey, Matt, I was wondering if you ever watched the Savage Geese video about the old WRX where they did the skit of you shaving. If so, did they ask for your permission? Man, you are really going back there. That's yes. So no, that was in the days before I knew Savage Geese. They did not ask me to do that. That was back whenever there was actually quite a few people that were parodying me and making fun of my videos. And Savage Geese was just one of those people who just thought I was ridiculous and over the top and dumb or whatever the case might be. And, I think back when I first met Mark, I think that we might have, had a quick little, exchange about that or something. But, I got to know them. They're super cool guys. And I mean, that was their early days. We were both younger and, sillier. And, I was annoyed whenever that first came out way back when. I was mad about that. Like, I didn't think it was funny. I was like, this is really weird, really bizarre. Like, I was pretty upset whenever I saw that. But, now having a greater appreciation for their comedy and now like getting to know them and like, having a great time with them. It was so funny. Random little behind the scenes story you only get here on the live stream. The Tacoma video that we just filmed, we were on the same wave with, it was Mark and, why am I blanking? Jack. Mark and Jack were both there. And so getting to hang with them was great. But then we were both had finished up filming right around the same time, and they only had so many trucks to send us back to the hotel in, so we had to pair up. And so I was able to pair up with them to drive back, but instead of just going straight back to the hotel, Mark was like, yeah, there's like a really good gelato place I want to stop at on the way on the way back. I'm like, okay, sure, like I'm down for some gelato. So we like and of course we were being driven by Jack on these crazy tight corners in a Tacoma, and he's not even going that fast because like I guess Mark's not a great passenger in the canyon sometimes, so he wasn't even trying to go that fast, but just having Jack just flying around these corners on this canyon in a brand new Tacoma, and then we stop and get gelato, just hang out and chat and just talk about life and channels and what all the crap that goes along with being a YouTuber in the car world and stuff, and just it's just a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting, it wasn't planned. It was just like, oh, I'm gonna hop in the truck with them, and then we're actually gonna go get ice cream, and it was just kind of fun. So yeah, I am very grateful to call them friends now, and they're awesome guys. But yeah, back then, if you would have asked me back whenever that video first came out, I would have said I hated his guts. But since then, we thankfully been able to really have an appreciation for each other. I think he doesn't obviously think that my videos are ridiculous anymore, and and I look back at my old stuff, and there's definitely some cringy stuff for sure. So I don't blame him now, looking back as a more mature Super Darks fan here. But it was that was interesting. But thanks for the throwback, Kevin. It's been so long since I even thought about that video, but there's a bunch of parodies back then. People were doing stuff left and right. It was like every other week there was someone doing a parody of my channel, which I guess was a very good sign, because it was I guess, what do they say, that not imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So I guess there's that. But that if people are making fun and parodying you, like you're somebody, that you're important enough that people are actually making fun of you. So that was very interesting back in those very early days there. And Little Rockstar RS says, hi, Matt. Hope you and the family are doing well. I've been good. Nothing new with the Focus RS and the Fiesta ST. Still been having a blast driving the GR Corolla. Yeah. Blaze there has an awesome family lineup. They all have all these fun hot hatches. And it's got to be a really fun family to hang out with. Everyone having a cool car. So Mike says, Matt, who comes out with a Model 3 competitor first, Toyota or Honda? Between those two, I mean, I would say probably Toyota, just because Toyota has the BZ3 already in China. I'm not sure. I mean, so actually, they kind of have a competitor already in China. Just here in the States, we don't get that car, but they could bring that car over here pretty easily if they wanted. I don't know if that's in their plans or not. I mean, that car's been out for a good while now, so I feel like we would have gotten it in the States by now if they were going to bring it. But um, I would say Toyota has the bigger resources. Honda's really behind. I mean, Toyota's behind as well with EV stuff, but not as much as Honda is. So I think it's going to be Toyota to do something like that first, if they even want to bother with something like that. Anyway, sorry, I missed all the super chats for coming in. I apologize for the delay here. So, Shift to Rocks, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I've recently started receiving press cars and want to know the do's and don'ts of said privilege and whether you return clean, fueled up, etc. That's an interesting question. Yeah, thanks for the behind the scenes question there. And congrats on starting to get some press cars there. So for me, at least the way that I do it, I don't clean them before I take them back. That's their job. They have a detail shop that is, supposed to give the cars a cleaning once they're done and send them on to the next person. And the fueled up thing too, that is also, in the budget for them to fuel them up. So they deliver the car with a full tank of gas, all clean. I give it back to them with whatever gas is in there, and it's dirty. But I've never had any complaints about that. And I also, as far as the fuel thing goes, I will make sure that they have enough fuel to get to a fuel station. Like, I don't leave it on E or anything like that. I make sure there's at least a quarter tank in there, just to be courteous. They're not having to pull their hair out trying to get to the gas station. But that's it. I'd say the bottom line though is just, make sure you read the contract as far as, don't do track stuff in them if they say not to do track stuff in them, because some of them will say not to do that. And aside from that, just, treat them well. It's amazing the amount of press cars that get wrecked and get, dinged up. It's typically by us. There's certain people that seem to do it more than others as far as, it's just, they give press cards to a lot of different people, and I could go on for a while about how there needs to be reform and the amount of people that get press cards and stuff, because there are some people that just really trash them badly. But anyway, I just say, treat it well, don't trash it. But if it's a little bit dirty and it's not full of gas, it should be okay. At least in my experience. Different press fleets, by the way, have different policies. There's wild differences with some of them. I mean, like, for example, I can veto cars. Like, they ask me like, hey, like, is it okay if I schedule you in these cars? And I give them a wish list of here's the stuff I want. If it's not one of these, I'm open to if you want to offer me stuff. Sometimes I will say, sure, I'll take something, or if we're trying to keep the rotation of cars going, because they drive 4 hours to me to drop a car off. So it's 4 hours for their driver. They drive home in the one that I had the previous week, and they keep that rotation going. And it's a big pain in the butt for them if they don't have another thing to send me. So they usually try and bundle as many as possible until the rotation ends. Then we take a break for a few weeks, and they start back up again. So if there's something where okay, there's this awesome car here, and then there's an awesome car here, but I need something to fill this thing, sometimes I will take something that isn't ideal just to keep it going, keep it easier for them. So depending on how you do scheduling, I'd say try and, make it easy for them. That's another thing. But there's a lot of other people I've talked to that get press cars that don't have that privilege. They literally don't even know what they get sent. They just stuff shows up in their driveway and they're like, okay. And that's, which would not work for me in this channel. I think I would just kill the channel if I just was viewing whatever they sent me. But so it's just, I'd say just try and be easy to work with too. So you're not, too demanding. But aside from that, it should be fun. Enjoy the press cars. It's a very cool perk of doing this. And Steven, thank you so much for the super chat as well. He says Ford's GTD application process worthless. 30-day response time promised, 3 to 4 months now. Speed Phenom got response just a day or so ago. More info needed. Ignored me. That sucks that they ignored you for that. And you've probably heard rants before about Ford from me, and they're just terrible with the ordering process and communicating with anybody for anything, whether it's a Maverick or a Mach-E or whatever. Especially these days. I didn't really hear a whole lot because Ford did do VIP ordering for me for the Bullet, which was very nice of them. It's one of the few times that I was in Ford's good graces somehow. But they they just said, hey, here's the order form. you sign the paper or whatever, and then it was basically just handled by the dealer from that point on. So Ford didn't give me any direct stuff. I did know someone that ordered a Ford GT whenever they were doing those, and I'm not sure. He didn't seem to think that it was a terrible buying process for that. So I would assume you do the same level of customer care for the GTD like they've done for the GT supercar, but I could be wrong. But that sucks if it's already turning out to not be great. Maybe they just have way too much, way too many applications or something. I don't know. But hopefully they take care of you, Steven, because that's, anyone that's applying for a purchase that large, you would think that they would give you really good customer service. So I'm sorry to hear it hasn't been great. Hopefully it works out. But if you're going to get one of those, that is amazing. I actually, someone just the other day was like, I really hope you can review a GTD. I'm like, man, me too, but I'm not holding my breath for that one. That'd be awesome though. And two, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, if Matt is Hammond, who's May and who's Clarkson? Don't say Doug. Matt will get upset. Matt will get upset. This comment brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Use code Matt's Basement. Thanks for joining in too. It'd be so fun to do like a Top Gear kind of collaboration with people. It'd be really fun. As far as who I would pick if I was doing something like that, it's so tough because I have so many friends in this car reviewing world, and it'd be so fun to just do like a giant thing with a bunch of people. But yeah, I'd have to think about that because there's definitely ones off the top of my head that I think would make for good TV of me and them just kind of going back and forth and stuff. But there's a bunch of really great people in this field that I'd love to, do more stuff with and do, Grand Tour level adventures with and stuff. It'd be hilarious fun. So, lots of good people in this industry, thankfully. Let me see, getting back to the member questions here, and I'm way behind. Let me see. So Cam Jam says, hi, Matt, can only be in the stream for 15 minutes. So hopefully I didn't keep you waiting too long here, Cam Jam, if you're still around. But he said, what do you think would be better, a Q50 with the 3.0T or the 3.7 if planning to keep it for a while? I'd say probably a 3.7, to be totally honest. 3.0T seems to be okay, but the 3.7 seems to be more reliable from the stuff that I've seen. I'm no expert on either engine, so don't take my word for that much, but I would lean to the 3.7 myself. And just naturally aspirated typically means there's less to go wrong than the turbo motor as well. So I'd say 3.7. But again, probably not the best answer, but hopefully that helps you a little bit, and hope you're able to hear that before you to sign off there, Cam Jam. Thanks for joining in. Jordan says, will with the advancements in engine technology, if GM brought back the Pontiac Solstice, do you think it could be a direct competitor to the Mazda Miata, EV or otherwise? I think it could be. I'd love to see Pontiac come back in general, but as far as I think with any kind of GM roadster like that, it would almost certainly probably be electric. And then they would kind of get a jump on Mazda, who I'm sure is going to take the slow approach to the electrification thing for the Miata. So it could be a cool way to be like, hey, ever wonder what an electric Miata is like? We'll tell you 10 years before Mazda will, something like that. Could kind of be the edge there. But I think there is almost zero chance that GM would ever go into something like that unless they partner up with someone like Mazda. Mazda partnered up with, Fiat or I guess was going to be Alfa Romeo, then Fiat, for the 124. So, maybe Mazda would be open to a partnership again and maybe work with GM and you get a Solstice that's basically a, Miata just with different styling, which would be awesome too. But yeah, we could dream. That'd be fun to see more fun stuff come from GM here. Rafi, thanks for joining in as well. Trucking Car Guy says, I saw an Ionx 6 running around yesterday. Nice. I think I've seen one on the road myself so far, but they're pretty rare. And let me see. Marco says, what's up, Matt? Just joining in. Have you ever been to Outback Steakhouse? It's been a long time, but yeah, I've been there a few times. The Bloomin' Onion and I had some good steaks there many, many years ago. It's been a long time. It used to be really like the it place a long time ago, at least around here in Pittsburgh, but haven't been to an Outback Steakhouse in at least probably 10 years at this point. It's been a long time, but it was good whenever I've had it in the past. And two says, hi guys, welcome to the weekly basement meeting. Don't join, we're packed. Thanks for joining in too. Trucking Car Guy says, hey Matt, what would you say would be the best infotainment systems in terms of ease of use, accessibility, design, how it's integrated in the interior? I really do love Honda's system. I think Honda's is really great. I love the customizable tiles and yet the simplicity of it. I like how there's a little finger rest right under the screen, and still has a metal volume knob on it. But the finger rest really helps you to stabilize your hand whenever you're trying to poke around on the screen. And I really like the way they do it. I just wish they'd do bigger screens outside of the Accord. But aside from that, I think that they have one of the best ones in my experience personally. I also think Toyota's new system is great just because it's so focused on just CarPlay, and that's basically it. And everything else is really simple and straightforward. So I think it's another very simple system. I think less is more with infotainment systems, and so I think that some of those are my favorites. But a lot of them do a really good job in general these days. Then there's a lot of them have customizable tiles and have like the Hyundai and Kia system does the same kind of thing. The only problem with that one is there's no wireless CarPlay. So that's why I feel like Honda and Toyota are some of the top ones where it's like it's a reliable wireless CarPlay connection. They're simple and straightforward and easy to use, and I just have no complaints with them. So I think they probably stand out in my mind. Trying to think if there's any others. Yeah, I think those are probably some of my favorites. But yeah, I'll think if there's any others that pop into my head, I'll be sure to mention them. And Little Rockstar says, thanks for that, Matt. My time to help. Personally, if you enjoy the character of the Focus ST, I would recommend test driving a lower mileage, late 2017 or 2018 Focus RS. Well, there you go. So hopefully that helps you, Tom. And the RS is great. Just the seating position, Tom, is the one thing you're going to want to sit in it and see if those seats are okay for you. Some people hate them. Some people love them. Just try out the seats if you're going to consider an RS. That's the only thing I'll say. But otherwise, RS is awesome, super fun. And Marco said I had a 2015 Focus with the 1-liter 3-cylinder EcoBoost with the manual and the body kit. Definition of a rare normal car, fun little car. So I would imagine the ST and the RS would be a riot. Yeah, they are a ton of fun. They just, man, I miss those days from Ford. And Tom says, I like the ST, but the interior isn't the best. The transmission is pretty sloppy, even with a good short throw shifter, bushings, transmission adapters. Also would not consider an RS. Okay, so yeah, I mean, in that case, yeah, hopefully the ones you're considering will kind of, be what you're looking for there. But I think definitely, especially if you like some of the stuff about the GTI, like the better stereo, the hatch, again, I think Integra could be a cool option as well, potentially. And again, I think in past live streams, Tom, you were a little concerned about the ride, and that's another area where I'd say if you are hoping for a smoother ride, the Integra might be the better pick and might be kind of the sweet spot for you there, hopefully. And Guardian says, I like the energy for Rady's rides, but never answers the questions he puts as the caption. Also the zonks not mentioned after the review. I don't watch his stuff all the time, so I don't follow. I'm subscribed and I see the stuff he does, and we chat a lot, and I'm very thankful to call Joe a friend as well. But we all have our little shticks and our little things that we do. And I mean, again, clearly his stuff definitely resonates with people, and I'm glad to see that he's having a lot of success as well. And Tom says, because it'd be my third Focus of that generation. Gotcha. I had a 1-liter EcoBoost automatic and then upgraded to the ST. Nice. So yeah, if you're looking for something new and you're ready to get out of the Fords, then I'd say I'd go for the Acura personally. Guardian also says Mark and Jack of Savage Geeks are funny. Yeah, I know their sense of humor isn't for everyone, but they are hilarious in my opinion. I love watching their videos. The AI bits recently have really been hilarious to me. And Austin says, hey, Matt, have you and Beth put up your holiday decorations yet? I just finished putting up my tiny plastic tree. Nice. So we just, actually the day after Thanksgiving, we put up most of our stuff. We were very eager, and our daughter, was very excited to decorate everything as well. So we wanted to get it up nice and early for her. And so, yeah, we got it all up, and we got a nice little design outside and all that stuff. And we actually finally upgraded our Christmas tree. The first few years we did a real tree because I really love real trees and the smell and all that, and just going and getting them, and it's all very fun. But after a couple of years, it just got to be a little bit too much work, and our cats love to mess with the pine needles and stuff. So we just got a fake one, and we had that one for a while, and then we just upgraded to a new fake one. It was on sale this year, and so we now have a little bit of a fuller tree, a little less skinny than the last one. So we have a little bit of a nicer tree set up this year. But yeah, always so much fun setting up for the holidays, and glad you're able to get your stuff up as well, Austin. Tom says, Stephen, Ford is weird with applications. Like you have to show them you're a brand loyalist, and I'm sure being an influencer or celebrity helps. Definitely. That stuff definitely helps. Ford is all about, any kind of free publicity they can get. So that might be part of why you maybe got put on the back burner, Stephen, unfortunately, if you don't have a huge following or you're not a celebrity or, something like that. But hopefully they still take care of you and it's not just, them giving them to every influencer and celebrity out there. But let me see. Trident Car Guy, thanks so much for gifting those 5 memberships. I really appreciate it. And hope everyone was able to grab those there. But yeah, thanks so much for your generosity. And Vishal, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, we'll be in the market for a car in the next year, narrowed down to Civic or Mazda 3, both in sedan. Pros and cons of both. So I'd say between the two, the Mazda, the biggest thing about the Mazda is that it's a little bit smaller. You have a smaller backseat, smaller trunk. You have the infotainment controller. I guess now for 2024, you can't have a touchscreen for CarPlay because they put that new screen in the Mazda 3 as well for 2024. So you have that. So I guess that kind of negates most of the touchscreens issues. But as far as the actual Mazda system, you still have to use a controller. Not everyone loves that. So I'd say controller, smaller backseat, smaller trunk. And it's just a little tighter even up front, I'd say too. But those are really the only drawbacks. And the fact that with the Mazda, you can get it with all-wheel drive. You can get the 2.5 in that, so it's a little bit punchier than even like a Civic Si. So I'm not sure exactly which version of each of those you're going for. But I'd say the Civic is the easier one to live with, just again for the space and the infotainment. The Mazda is going to feel a little more premium and a little punchier, I'm assuming, with the 2.5, especially even the naturally aspirated one is a nice punchy little motor versus the 2-liter you get in the lower versions of the Civic. So there's that. And then the rest of it's going to be subjective, honestly. They're both really solid cars from a reliability standpoint. They're both well built. I enjoy driving both of them. And yeah, I feel like it's kind of a tie otherwise. So if the back seat and the trunk and the infotainment don't sway you, it's just going to come down, I guess, which place is going to give you the better deal, to be totally honest, and what fits, your, as far as trim structure, which one has the right trim at the right price and has the stuff you want. But they're both great cars. I highly recommend both of them. So might not help you out too much there, but hopefully at least give you a little bit of the high level overview there. And definitely check out my reviews. I've done extensive reviews on both the Civic and the Mazda 3 with all of my in-depth thoughts in the moment in the car themselves, and so that'll hopefully give you a little bit of extra insight as well, if you haven't seen those already. But thank you so much for the super chat, and good luck with being in the search for a car next year. It's a lot of fun. I know it can also be stressful for some people as well, but I hope it goes well for you. And let me see where I left off on the other questions here. So, so Austin says, speaking of Top Gear, I guess the Grand Tour is also officially coming to an end. Just 2 more specials to air, and that's it. Truly an end of an era. Yep, and I gave it a cheers in the weekly update here this week. It's really, really sad. And it's it is what it is. But things change, time moves forward, and it's just unfortunate. I'm gonna miss it. And it really, though, to me, I love the specials, but I really love their car reviews. And whenever they quit doing those, part of Top Gear already kind of died for me with that. It was still great to see all 3 of those guys together, but they have their own shows and stuff, so at least that'll kind of soften the blow. But I'm sad to see it go for sure. And Guardian, I said about how I mentioned that. And Trent Carguy says Chris fixes Hammond. That'd be a fun person to throw in the mix there. Yeah, I mean, and I'm really good friends with Chris Fix. He's a really, really awesome guy. And we go way back. So I'd be happy to have him on some kind of show. And there's, we try to even do. Some of you that have been following for a long time know there was the Pull Apart Challenge, which was a little mini series that a bunch of us were in. It was me, Chris Fix, Humble Mechanic, and Eric the Car Guy, Engineering Explained, and there was 1 or 2 other. I can't remember the name of Brian's channel. There's two different Brians. They each had channels. But anyway, it was a really fun thing to shoot. It was like a full blown like reality TV kind of shoot with craft services and EMS on scene, like the whole deal. And it was like a really fun build. If you haven't seen it, it's a really cool thing. And I think there's three or four episodes, and Brian's Mobile One. Thanks, Beth just texted me. Brian's Mobile One was in it, and anyway, it was a really fun thing that we did, and it was done by like the same guy that shot a bunch of like Food Network shows and stuff. So like we had like a legit director, and there was a girl that was a presenter, and it was really like legit, like setting this up to be some kind of like fun show series, and it just never got picked up. They shopped it around to various networks and stuff, and it just wasn't something that someone wanted to pick up. But I was really hoping, I think that was back in 2017 or 2018. I was really hoping that was like my big break, and it would have been so much fun because it was so fun to film that too. But just didn't work out. But so yeah, we already did kind of a little bit of a show with Chris, and it was great, and hoping to do. I'd love to do anything like that in the future for sure. B. Mitchell says your press fleet vendor must be New York City based, since you mentioned the 4-hour drive from them to deliver them. Being an auto print media, I found that if you aren't on a coast, you don't get anything. Yeah. So my press fleet, I do get some stuff from the New York fleet, but I also get most of my stuff comes from the DC fleet. And the DC fleet has even less cars than the New York fleet does. So thankfully, the New York fleet's really kind of stepped up recently to give me more stuff and get stuff to me a little bit faster. Because some of this stuff I was just waiting forever in the DC fleet, because it's just like, really low on the totem pole compared to all the other bigger markets. But yeah, it's tough to get stuff quickly. Part of, it's again, just being wherever you are. It's one of the challenges for sure being in Pittsburgh. And everyone says if you want to get good press car access, you got to live in either New York or preferably just go to LA or Detroit. Those are the two places to get the best press cars the fastest. And it's just stuff I don't want to move to Detroit or the West Coast. Just I have all my family here and friends and everything. It's just I love Pittsburgh, so it's the compromise I make, and it's probably part of also what's hurting this channel is I'm not living in the prime spot to do this. But it's just some things to me it's just worth not having the best access if it means having to give up everything else. But let me see. So Marco says, I don't know, but I'd like to know too. I'm just afraid to ask. Oh, I see. Justin saying, what's the beef with Doug? There's no official beef. Two's joking because I'm trying to see if I can make this short. I just have some issues with the way that Doug has portrayed other reviewers and the way Doug does things that I don't personally agree with, I guess, is the high level way of covering that without getting into it too much. And there's no official beef. And I mean, that's one thing about the car reviewing world. There is very little beef or any at all. Most of us really get along. Doug just grinds some people's gears, and I'm one of those people. And I think that it's justified. I'm sure everyone has different opinions on it, but yeah, in my opinion, he's really, I don't want to say too much. He does things differently in ways I don't agree with. And so I will just leave it at that for now. I really don't want to, again, because I don't want to start beef, and I don't want to, ever, I don't want to talk, badly about anybody, but I would say out of all the reviewers out there, Doug isn't one of my favorites. I will put it that way. Anyway, moving on here. Double Strike Photo says Outback had the most unfortunate name for a dish ever. Their dessert called Chocolate Thunder from Down Under. And I've never heard that one. That's pretty good. Thanks for the laugh, Double Strike. And I'll just leave that one there. So Steven says, I expected a response at the very least. Maybe Matt, you can get in your position to contact Ford and get the story. Loyalist, early 80s 150 truck, 1974 Mustang 2, 69 Mustang, 2019 Bullet, 22 Bronco, and 20 GT500. Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely, you have the buying history there, Stephen. I think the buying history is definitely an important part of it for Ford. I think it's just that there's also a component of the visibility for them, and again, just them wanting to get free publicity. As far as, unfortunately, I have zero leverage with Ford. They don't talk to me for anything. I couldn't even get invited on the 2024 Mustang launch. They still haven't sent me a press car, and I won't get one at least until next year, if ever. Ford is just, I'm dead to Ford, it seems. So unfortunately, I have no help for you there. I wish I did. Trust me, I would love to be on better terms with Ford. I don't know why they don't like me anymore. I didn't do anything that I'm aware of, but Ford is very, if you're hot, as far as you have the limelight, you have the attention, it's your moment in the sun, they will be your best friend. But then the second that you aren't on top of the charts on YouTube there, it seems like they just drop you, at the first sign of, someone else being better. It's very transactional. It's, if you're the it person, cool. If you're not, see you later. We have no relationship with you. It's just who gets the most views, or I don't know how they decide it, because there's a bunch of people that go on these Ford events that get 0 views that are still on these things. So I don't know how it works, but anyway, yeah, Ford's not into me. So at the current moment, so I just I can't help you out there, Steven. I wish I could. Jordan says, with all the digital screens and less physical buttons, do you think the concept is that you can only make adjustments at the red light or in park before you leave the driveway? I don't think that's the concept. I think that they just are leaning too much on the safety systems and like, oh, well, this is why we have lane keep assist, and this is why we have automatic emergency braking. So if your screen distracts you too much, which, legally, of course, they have to say, don't ever use the screen if it's distracting. But of course, they're all distracting. And of course, you're going to have to use the screen to do things. But I think they think that they're kind of insulated because they have all the safety systems. And if you're not paying attention to staying in your lane, hopefully the car is doing it for you. And if you're not paying attention to the person slamming the brakes in front of you, hopefully the car will do it for you. So I think that's what they're leaning on as far as that. But I think a lot of companies know that that's not a good idea. I mean, Mazda, for example, this is why they are like refusing the touchscreen so aggressively, because they are convinced. They've done so many studies where they've put hundreds of people in cars with, cameras tracking their eyeballs and having them be like, okay, now try this infotainment system, now try this one, and now try the Mazda thing with the controller wheel. And they are convinced their way is the safest. And that is why they are not backing down, aside from, again, caving just recently on just touch for the Apple CarPlay. But I think even that was a concession they didn't want to make, but they just had to, because they probably were just losing out on too many sales not having that. But I just think that, yeah, the companies are just doing what people want, what consumers want. Consumers say they want a touchscreen. It makes sense because that's what you're interacting with every day. You're interacting with touchscreens all the time with your phone, so it makes sense to just translate that into the car. And I'd say in some instances, like the Mazda screen, sometimes can be more distracting, at least at the first impression. I think once you learn it, it's fine. And once you own one, supposedly it gets better. Mazda buyers seem to love the whole scroller wheel thing still. And even a lot of people that have, the German vehicles that have the controller wheels, like, swear by them and think it's the greatest thing ever. And they're upset that, even the German companies are ditching those controller wheels these days. But, I think it's just really the companies are just hoping the tech will save you, because you're just, there's no way you're going to be driving as well with a giant screen distracting you all the time. And Jazz says, Matt, unable to use Apple CarPlay Bluetooth on Lexus since the Apple update a few days ago. Lexus dealer says they know about it and I should call Apple. Do you have any insight on this problem? Yeah, I'm not sure if I haven't heard about that. If that is the case, and I would say if an Apple update broke it, then yes, that is Apple's problem, because the Lexus didn't change anything. The Apple device is what changed. So I'd say, yeah, that's probably an Apple problem. And I would definitely at least let Apple know about it. And, there might be something behind the scenes that's just, going a little wonky there. But sorry to hear that. Hopefully it gets ironed out pretty quickly. And Stephen, thanks so much. It's thumbs up for Matt. I appreciate the support. Let me see. So PK is asking RS3 or M2. Personally, I'd say RS3, but M2 is great too. And Cars Tech Wood says, Matt, have you noticed many vehicle models have ditched their base model? I usually buy base model vehicles. There are some that have. I mean, some of them I think tried that during the COVID years whenever supply was limited. Now they're slowly bringing them back, like Honda bringing back the LX models after dropping those, for like a year and trying that out. I can think it kind of backfired on them a little bit. And I think there's some others that are, kind of ditching the base models there a little more. I think it's tough to say because the official line that I usually get whenever I do ask companies about that, and I've talked to product planners about that, and I've said, is there, a reason why you're dropping these? And the typical answer that I've gotten from multiple different, manufacturers is this is what people want. I think that was also skewed. They said that during the COVID years when I think those years people were just buying whatever was on the lot, whatever they could get their hands on. And I think that distorted the data for the manufacturers, or they just hoped that it would be the case that everyone just wanted more expensive vehicles, and they just kind of leaned into that, whether or not they actually believed it. But I think that was, it made the most sense to juice the profits at that point in time. Unfortunately, that was the way that they wanted to survive. Is if we're going to do less volume, then we got to up the margin on all these cars, and so they just turned out the top models. But I think that it seems like they're starting to come back more with the base models again. But I think that was the official line that I always got, was that this is what people wanted. This is what people order. People order the higher trims. People usually want the higher trims. Those are the ones that sell the most. And even before COVID, I mean, if you look at base model sales, they were typically one of the smaller percentages of trim mixes, with some exceptions. There's some vehicles where the base model sells really well, like the WRX, for example. But typically, most people do try and go up, a trim or two, and don't want a truly base model. So I think that's why some companies were like, great, this is a great opportunity to just ditch them all together. And, so we'll see whether or not that sticks around. But hopefully it does. I think, especially these days, they really see how people need an affordable vehicle. And every vehicle has, standard CarPlay these days, has, all the basics that you need. So I think that base model vehicles, the case is so strong there now. And, I think that for most people, a base model is totally fine. And so I think it's unfortunate that you can't get base models. Hopefully that's something that does come back. Linda says, I've followed you and Rady's Ride since 2017. I enjoy both your reviews. Well, thanks, Linda. I'm glad you enjoy them. And thanks for joining in as well here. And Steven says, any snow yet? My Philly friends say no. We had 5 inches with cold weather. C806 and GT500 got garage. Well, that's good. And we had a little dusting here about a week ago or so. And that was it. It was enough to just barely cover the driveway. And the salt crews came out and salted the roads, which I was kind of annoyed about that, because I'm like, man, this is like a light little dusting, and they immediately put the salt down. So thankfully we've had a bunch of rain today that washed all that off. But I was not happy to see the salt coming out in November. But that's just part of Pittsburgh here. Let me see. So Austin's saying ready to stick with talking about sticking Twinkies and ho-hos everywhere in the car. It's a little old for me. Yeah, but a lot of people really love that, So that's again just going with what works, and it makes it fun though, to switch things up a little bit, not be always so serious. And Guardian says 2-door, 2-seater V8 sports car, C8 Vet or F-Type R, siding more towards the Jag. Your thoughts? So I would say objectively, the C7 is the better car. It's going to be more reliable. It's going to be more practical. It's probably, I think honestly, those are two of the biggest things. It's still very exciting. It is, a really, really good car. I really fell in love with even just base C7s are really, really good. And I think actually as far as used values goes, especially if you aren't adventurous enough to go for the F-types and stuff like that with their more sketchy reliability, I think C7s are a really solid buy, especially whenever everyone was dumping them to go for a C8 a few years back. I mean, C7s were even back then were, I think, high 30s, if I remember correctly. I have no clue. I haven't looked them up in a long time, so I have no clue what a nice used C7 is going for these days. But if you can get one for a good price, C7 is a tough thing to argue with. Now, the F-Type R, it's it's way more character. It's way more exciting. It's objectively worse, and therefore that makes it subjectively better if you're into that. And it's maybe a hard thing to kind of put into words, but it's just the F-Type R, just any F-Type in general. I actually really love even the V6 versions. They're all the handling is worse than a C7. It is just heavier. It's less practical. It's less reliable, but it has an appeal. And maybe it's because of those imperfections. Maybe it's just the gorgeous looks, or what I think is still narrowly a better sound. I think the C7 sounds great too, but the F types, especially with a supercharger whine you get with those, and just the gnarly crackling and popping V8. By the way, the F type was the first one to do that. All the crackling and popping you see in all the modern cars, the F type started that in like 2014. Obviously there was like natural backfires and stuff before then, but as far as the like kind of manufactured in stuff, the F type started that, and that like was so cool to me, and I still love F types. So for me, if it were my money, I would go F type, but I would go and do an F type only if I can get it with an extended warranty. And it was a really good example, one that had been taken care of, one that wasn't just some off lease beater for somebody, because there's a lot of those in the used market where like all the buttons are like all worn away and like everything just looks like garbage. Like, don't get one of those, but if you get one of the nicely kept ones and you have an extended warranty, I would say I would go F-Type R, just because, man, they're just, I know they're so appealing to me. I've always wanted an F-Type. I never had an opportunity. I was never in a position to get one. And now, especially, I prefer vehicles with a back seat, having a daughter now and wanting to take her places. But man, I still hope to someday own an F-Type. It might be a long time from now, but I'm hoping someday to have one, because I still love those things. And it also helped. They used like Lana Del Rey to help market it and stuff, and I'm a fan of her music and everything. So there's a bunch of emotional, subjective tie-ins as well with that. But I think F-Type would be my pick. But wearing my car reviewer hat, I would say C7 is the better car. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. And Jordan says, around 2013, after watching an EV review, my husband came up with an idea of putting copper coils in the tire rims of EVs to generate power. Has anyone came up with something to that nature? I've never heard of anything like that. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I have no ideas as far as the viability of something like that. But seems pretty cool. And if your husband has any kind of way to, any free time to patent something or try and shop something around, secure a patent and then try and license out that tech. If you think it's something, even like, it's kind of funny. My grandfather tried. He was an engineer, mechanical engineer, and he had thought that he came up with like a good perpetual motion kind of machine or something, and he was something he worked on and pursued, but I don't think he was ever able to get anywhere with it. And it kind of just, the idea kind of just died off. But it's one of those things, you can secure the patents and stuff for it, and you can maybe get someone to pay attention. Could be a great new innovation. Who knows? So they should go after it. If your husband thinks it's something viable, pursue it. Could be awesome. And Guardian's talking about the roadways that were set up to charge EVs. Yeah, and they are doing some testing there of the inductive charging put into the roadways there, but that's going to be so expensive. And I just feel like with all the infrastructure, issues and stuff, I think that it's going to be a long time before anything gets put into pavement that's not dirt and rocks, unfortunately. But anyway, sorry I missed a couple of super chats here. Overgrow Society, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, sup Matt, thoughts on used EVs being cheaper than ICE cars? I just sold my 2023 Accord Sport Hybrid. Great car, but EVs are faster, Polestar 2, etc. I think that now is a fantastic time to buy an EV, especially a used one at that. I mean, but even the new ones are so heavily discounted. If you've been sitting on the sidelines, you've been considering getting into one, I mean, this is the time as far as pricing goes. Now, as far as, financing and everything else, I mean, that's, not great. So I'd say ideally be a cash buyer who wants an EV. That would be the best way to capitalize on that. But, yeah, I think it's great. It's especially, most of these EVs are only a couple of years old. So, even if the battery's been trashed, it's still going to have a ton of capacity, unless you're talking about a Nissan Leaf. But other than that, everything else seems to be pretty good with, having really solid battery capacity for a long time. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good idea. I mean, it comes down to, again, if you are set up for the EV lifestyle, as far as having a place to charge it every night, being okay, not rushing and doing a cannonball run anytime you need to do a road trip, or being comfortable renting a car when you do need to do a road trip if you really don't want to stop for more than 5 minutes. There's definitely a lifestyle to having an EV. There's also lots of perks, like never stopping at a gas station ever again. And especially if you don't do road trips, you never have to, bother refueling at all, really. So I mean, there's obviously, I won't go into the whole thing about EVs, but I think that it's as long as you can charge it every night, you live in a place where you can charge it every night, and you're okay with the compromises that are involved in EVs, because there are some, as long as you're okay with that stuff, totally go for it. There's, I'm assuming that we can only have prices drop this fast for so long before, because there's still, I mean, the narrative is that, they're undesirable, this, that, and the other. But Ford even said, like, I think they are up year over year on Lightning sales. And yes, Lightnings are all on lots now. And so everyone's like, oh, look, no one wants a Lightning anymore. And they're stacking up on dealer lots. But they might be stacking up on dealer lots the same way regular F-150s stack up on dealer lots as well, And it just might be a convenient way for people to push back on the EV, thing. But, it seems like there is still some demand for EVs. It has certainly cooled off. The early adopters have already gotten their stuff. Like anything else, everyone has to have the first iPhone, the second it comes out, and then you have this gap of like, oh, but now we actually have to sell people on this new device, and it's not just going to be, instantly sold out for however long. So you get through that early adopter phase, like, with an iPhone, it's like a month or so, and then you get caught up with demand, and then you can waltz into a store and pick one up, and it's not a big deal. But you can't do that on day one. It's the same thing with EVs. The first model year they come out, everyone wants them. There's markups. It's a big, everyone's got to wait forever, and it's a big pain in the butt. But then, they finally get caught up with demand. I mean, Ford had always said they wanted to produce over 100,000 Mach-E's a year. That was always their goal. That's not a surprise. So if you see 100,000 Mach-E's being churned out, there's going to be a little bit of a period there where you're going to have a lot of them sitting around until you really convince people, hey, like the Mach-E is actually a great car. And like I just was talking a few weeks ago in a live stream, you're now starting to see Mach-E commercials again. They didn't have to advertise for the first couple of years because they had a long wait list. And now they don't. And so now is the job of, hey, now we actually have to be competitive. We actually have to offer incentives. We actually have to fight for sales again. And that's the way car business has always been, and it's nothing different. I think with the EVs, there's just a little bit of a harder learning curve, and there's a little bit more resistance there, but it's, I think, to me, going to largely follow the same kind of product cycle of hot new thing, then it cools off, then you slowly have to do the work of actually convincing people this is a better vehicle for them, and for a lot of people it will be. It's just going to take time and get those prices to the point they need to be at for people to go for it, essentially. So that's kind of the job of the manufacturers now. But thank you so much, Overgrowth, for the super chat there, and hopefully that helps you a little bit with your thoughts, and congrats on selling the Accord there. I'm sure hopefully you were able to even make some money on that potentially, because I think those are pretty hot currently as well. Rafido, thank you so much for the very generous super chat as well. He says, hey, Matt, I'm looking to split the miles on the FK8. I'm looking for a manual. I'm still tossing the idea between the SI and Sport Touring manual. For your information, near me, the dealers are marking up SIs. Thanks for all your videos. Thanks for watching them. As far as your question there, I think it's really just don't compromise on what you want. If you want an SI, go drive wherever you need to drive to go get one. If they're marking them up near you, expand your search radius. I guarantee you there's SIs out there for MSRP somewhere. I know not everyone has the flexibility of, going on a Saturday and, but even if it's a fly, there's people that do that where they fly. And I actually did that once with a friend, flew into another city, made the deal on Saturday morning, spent all day Saturday and Sunday driving back in the car. And then, you're set for Monday morning, and so, that really can expand your search radius. If you can do anything that takes a 2-day trip to drive home, and it's a fun road trip, so I mean, it just comes down to, how badly you want the SI over the Sport Touring. But if you want the SI and you just don't want to pay a markup, I would just go somewhere else to get an SI at sticker. But as far as the merits between the two of them, I think we talked about this a little bit, previously, but it's really going to come down to, it's not a giant difference in power. It's just that the SI, is just a little bit more, just a little sportier with the setup. And I mean, I love the sport touring as well, but I did appreciate the extra punch of the SI. And I mean, you can tune it. I don't know how you feel about tuning, a car, but you can tune a sport touring to be just as punchy or more punchy than an SI as well. It's just you don't get the limited slip diff. So depending on where you live, if that is valuable to you, the limit slip diff, if you live in a place that gets snow, that could be reason alone. Just go for an SI for that, no contest. But, if you don't need that, and there's some flexibility there, you can get a sport touring and then tune it and could have the same kind of fun as an SI. So, there's definitely some wiggle room there depending on, what your priorities are. But I think they're both great cars. I don't think there's really a wrong answer. I hate to see people compromise, even if it's on a color. Get the color you want. Don't just go for the boring silver one on the lot. Drive somewhere, find the fun color you want to get, find the fun car you want to get and the right transmission you want to get, whatever the case might be. And I was like, oh, well, they only have automatics here. I want the manual, but I'll just settle for an automatic because I don't want to go outside of my zip code. I think that it's fun road tripping. Get out on the road and, find what you want and get exactly what you want. Because it's, it's a big purchase, and compromising, I think, is not, something that you should have to do, and so I'd rather compromise on the convenience factor than compromise on the vehicle that I'll be living with. I'd rather be inconvenienced for one weekend than be inconvenienced with a subpar, second choice kind of thing for however many years you plan to keep it. So it's the only other advice I can give you there, but definitely check out my videos if you haven't already on the SI and the sport touring, as far as my in-person thoughts on them as I'm driving them. And I'm hoping to get more seat time in both of those. I'd certainly not say no if I get one as a press vehicle for either of those this coming year here. But as far as I know, I don't think there's any new ones in the press fleet for the time being. But yeah, they're both great cars. Hopefully it helps you a little bit there, Ruffy. And thanks again for the super chat. Let me get back to... I see Overgrow's chiming in as well about the SI. He says, I had a 22 SI. It's amazing, but I would definitely consider tuning it. I had a Honda Data Tune, and honestly, it was more fun to drive than my 2013 Type R I had for a bit. Way better MPGs too, even tuned. Yeah, they're great. What you can do with those with a tune. And thanks for chiming in on that, Overgrow. And get back to the other member questions here. So I'm so far behind. I apologize, everyone. I'll try and do some faster answers here. So where was I? Let me see. So Tom says, I love the Veloster review you did with Jason. Thanks. I'm glad you liked that one. That was a lot of fun to do. And yeah, Veloster are fantastic. Hunter says, hey, Matt, I feel you. I'm in Pittsburgh too, and I'd make much more money at my job if I moved to a more popular area, but all my family is here. Yeah, it's definitely it's tough sometimes, but Pittsburgh is awesome, so I don't want to complain for sure. B. Mitchell, I see your comment there about Doug, and I will just leave that one there. But yeah, I see that some other people have kind of picked up on some of the vibes that I've picked up on with Doug as well. Yeah. I would love to say more, but I don't want to rock the boat, so I will bite my tongue. But yeah, it's. Man, I'm gonna take a drink and stop myself. Two says, okay, who brought up Doug? Well, the basement isn't sleeping tonight. That's 2 weeks tied to the radiator for me. Yeah, it's I appreciate the trying to sidestep the Doug stuff, but it is what it is. I'd love to be open and totally blunt, but it's just, I don't want to start stuff. It's just, I'd rather not. And let me see. Austin says, ironically, Doug bought his Lambo on Bring a Trailer instead of Cars and Bids. Yeah, I could go into that as well, but I won't. And Tom says, let's make Steven YouTube famous so we can get his GTD. Yeah, that's, I mean, you already got the stuff there. You got the components, Steven. Just, start filming all your cars. That's what a lot of other people do. Look at all the cool cars I have, and they get a following just for that. So, you can start there, and then you can tell, Ford, hey, look, I have a YouTube channel. I've posted videos, and they might not look into it that much. They'll be like, oh, look, it's a YouTuber. Let's give them a car. And so maybe that'll help you out. Honestly, it's not a bad idea, Tom. I would just make a YouTube channel, Steve, if you don't have one. Just be like, hey, look at my awesome garage. and just post that up and go from there. Double Strike says they say so many screens are so they make updates, but the dirty little secret is that it is cheaper to not have to source 30 different buttons. It's all accountants doing it. There is a lot of cost cutting, yeah, for sure, with the screens, and that is definitely a big thing. That's also with the digital gauge clusters. A lot of, like, it's funny, it's marketed as an upgrade, and in my opinion, I think it actually is an upgrade in a lot of cards because it's actually giving you more functionality, more customization. And so I really love them. So that's why I always view them as an upgrade myself. But I'm pretty sure they're cheaper to make these days than an actual physical, gauge cluster. And same thing with the buttons, as I think, yeah, you're definitely saving a lot of money there. And, for some vehicles, I can excuse some of that. Excuse me, but it's definitely, yeah, some of that for sure going on too. And B Mitchell says the biggest problem with dealing with Ford Motor Company is very frequent personnel changes. The exec who liked you is either retired or now in charge of purchasing seats or the like. Yeah, and I was talking to some other people at the LA Auto show, getting the scoop on some of the Ford personnel stuff. They're really, I mean, it seems like it's kind of a revolving door over there, especially in the past few years. I've heard some stuff. There's good reasons why it's a difficult company to work with, it seems, and work for apparently as well. I mean, Ford makes great products. Clearly we have a Mach-E and I have my Bullet. We love both of them. They make good products, but the behind the scenes stuff just is definitely, doesn't seem to be ideal, to be totally honest. And B Mitchell said, Stephen, I'm surprised with your purchasing history that you don't have Ford Gold Card status, 3 new cars within a decade. A pal of mine has that and he can get away with just about anything. Interesting. Austin says, hey Matt, what is your favorite car from a foreign market that isn't for sale in the States currently? I guess we're talking new vehicles. I don't know. It's probably, I mean, it's definitely something Japanese. I'd say like the Suzuki Jimny would be really cool to see here in the States. I think it would actually do really well. But see, all the like JDM stuff that I want is stuff that is, from the past that, can now be imported, like R34 Skylines and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of anything like new from Japan that I would really want. I would say, you know what? I'd probably say the K car roadsters. Like there's what's it called? The S500 from Honda, the little like roadster K car thing that, has like 130 horsepower or something, and no one in America would buy it aside from like 5 people. But I think something like that would be so cool to see. And there's, multiple companies, like there's Daihatsu has one as well, and a few others. It'd be so cool to see those because, again, you're getting back to the roots of like, a fun little sports car, especially one with a top off. It's a fun, emotional little vehicle. It's not super fast, but you can wring the snot out of it, have a blast at legal speeds. I think stuff like that would be so awesome. It's just, especially these days, it would take an act of bravery to drive any of them around because everyone's got a, 10,000 pound truck breathing down your neck every, intersection. But, and that's honestly, like, I love the Miata, and I actually, like, there's been some times where I really like kick around, like, should I get a Miata someday? Because I really want to experience owning one. But it's like, man, the roads these days, and like everyone in trucks and giant SUVs, and now EVs with their extra weight and the scariness of that and stuff. It's like, it really is. It's getting to be more and more brave to drive these low weight cars, even though they're so much better to drive. It's just like, you're playing with, you're just rolling the dice on physics there with people out there. I mean, hopefully, again, the safety tech works in all these giant vehicles and prevents some accidents, but a lot of people turn that stuff off as well, especially people that drive giant trucks that are modified and all that kind of stuff as well. But anyway, but I'd love to see those K car roadsters for sure. Steven says, my son just put in a new clutch on his 60-some thousand mile 2019 Bullet. That's awesome. He's got that many miles, but man, I feel like the clutch should last longer than 60,000 miles unless he does a lot of drag racing or clutch dumping or something. That's kind of disappointing to hear new clutch at 60,000 miles. Cause I think there's another guy I know that has a Bullet that I thought was around 50,000 miles, and he was seeming to say like everything was totally fine with his. But I really hope I don't have to do a clutch at 60,000 miles, even though at the rate I'm going, it's going to take me another 10 years to even hit that. And even that's probably optimistic, to be totally honest. It might be more than 10 years before I get 60,000 miles on mine. But yeah, I hope they don't need to clutch that soon. That's kind of crazy. Trenton Cargay says, I got tired of the snow, so I moved to the desert. That's certainly a good way to fix it. Steven says they use salt and cinders around me here in Illinois. It's nasty. Yeah, I bet that's, yeah, Illinois seems to be one of the like roughest places as far as winters in the States here. And Trenton Cargay says, I see way more C8s out here than C7 somehow. I actually think I kind of agree. I think I've recently seen, like more C8s. I feel like C7s have kind of vanished a little bit, or maybe I just pay less attention to them now than I used to. There's still some that I see, but it does seem like it's less than it was a few years back. I agree. It's interesting. Guardian says, thank you very much on the inside. I feel like the F-Type is unique and the styling is hard to beat. I respect your opinion. I appreciate that. Yeah, the F-Type has an appeal, and I think it's in one of those, intangible things. And sometimes those intangible things are the most powerful things. And, especially when you get a chance to drive it and experience it, where the stuff on paper kind of goes out the window and there's just something about them. And especially if you're going, I don't know, I didn't even discuss whether you're going for manual or automatic, Guardian, but especially that's another thing. If you're going for an automatic, the F-Type automatic is way better. It's the ZF 8-speed, way better than the automatics that GM was doing in the C7s at the time. So, I would say, especially if you're going automatic, F-Type's actually going to be, that's one area where it's mechanically superior, in my opinion, as well. And let me see. So, Jeremy, thanks for joining in. He says, good evening. And so, all right, I see Double Strike chiming in about the perpetual motion thing. Thanks for chiming in on that. And Rafi says, I'll be renting an SI on Turo in 2 weeks to help make a decision. Maybe I should wait. No, I mean, I think that's great. Yeah, check out, test drive one, see how that feels to you. And I think that's the best way to kind of figure it out for yourself, for sure. He says, I drive 20,000 miles a year. Yeah, in that case, the sport touring might be better just because you'll probably get slightly better fuel economy and you'll have a smoother ride. And I'm guessing you want a smoother ride if you're doing 20,000 miles a year. SI might get tiring with that suspension setup if you're doing 20,000 miles a year. So I'd say at that point, go up to either Integra or, sport touring might be a little bit better in that case. And Steven's going to check his Ford status there. Dorian says, I have not heard one mid and definitely not long-term story about someone owning one problematic devices. Sorry, I'm so far behind. I'm not sure what that's referring to, but let me see. So Jordan says a long, long while ago, there was a guy breaking the internet with his car that could run on water, salt and fresh water. He vanished. Your thoughts? I don't know. I think I maybe remember hearing about that. I never saw those videos or looked into that. There's, I'm sure, some kind of catch, unless he's running a steam engine. I'm not sure how you just use water, but I don't know. And even steam engines, you have to, have something to heat it up. But anyway, Steven says, Matt, do you know about Amtrak Auto Train, New York City to Florida and Disney might be a good option for your family. Drive your car on, take the train used and come back and drive back. Yeah, I actually just heard about that actually thanks to Motor Week. They did a little feature on that a couple of years ago as a really cool way to travel. And that sounds awesome to me. I've always loved train rides. I did a little trek by train. This was probably at this point 10 years ago now, but I loved it. I took the train from Pittsburgh, or where did I go from? No, I think, so I started in Rhode Island and I went all the way to Pittsburgh, I think, on the train. And it was a really good experience. I mean, it was definitely longer. It's longer. I think for us family wise, especially, having a young kid, it's easier just to get there as fast as possible. And especially with all the frequent flyer miles that I have with, all the flights that I do, for all these press trips and stuff. I appreciate the hearts there. Because of that, like I can fly the family anywhere we need to fly with points, no problem. So for me, it just makes sense just to fly at every opportunity, to be totally honest. But that would be a fun way to do it. And especially once our daughter's a little bit older, that could be a really fun, unique thing. Especially since we love Disney. So that could be another, cool, different way to get there for sure. But Yeah, that'd be fun to do someday. And it's a really cool idea. I highly recommend. If anyone else has ever, been intrigued by that idea, give it a shot. Amtrak definitely has their problems, but it's a really cool way to travel. Maybe it's just the nostalgic old soul in me that loves train travel, but it's just, it's a more relaxed way. You can just watch stuff go by through the windows, just kind of relax. There's the diner cars, and it's a very cool thing, especially if you can get a sleeper room and sleeping on a train. I think it's a really good sleep because you're rocking back and forth and stuff. All kinds of good perks, but I won't wax poetic about trains anymore. Let me see. Dorian says the LSD is kind of a crucial to feel comfy in snow ice with hitting it hard on a turn. Yeah, definitely. You definitely want an LSD for sure if you have any snow. And let me see. So Marco says, "All right, y'all have a good night. Thanks for the weekly live stream, Matt. Y'all stay safe and happy Sunday." Thanks for joining in, Marco. We'll go for another half hour or so here, and I'll be signing off as well. Two says, "Just tell Ford you're part of Matt's basement. Yeah, then they'll never talk to you." And Jordan says, "The Ford Taurus is being released abroad with the style and tech. I think it would do well here in the States." Yeah, we will see if Ford ever has the capacity to go back on their prior statement of, oh, we're not doing sedans anymore, and if they'll actually bring them back, I think it would make a lot of sense. I think we're starting to see there is some staying power for sedans, and there's some pretty good sales still for some of the remaining ones out there. So hopefully Ford brings the Taurus back. That'd be great to see, but I still don't hold my breath, unfortunately. Trent Carga says that little Honda EV would be kind of cool as a little city car. Oh yeah, the Honda E. That's another one. Yeah, I forgot about that one. I'm so sad they didn't bring that here in the States. I agree. That little Honda E thing would be great. It's just, I think it's only in Europe and Japan. Such a cool little car. I was so disappointed when we didn't get that here in the States. I would love to see those out here. I think, again, not a lot of range, and for a lot of people that makes it dead on arrival. But I think for the people who recognize they don't drive 100 miles a day, it would be a great little car. B. Mitchell says, got almost 61,000 on my 19 Mustang GT 6-speed and no clutch issues so far. Then again, I mostly highway drive it. Well, glad to hear yours is holding up, B. Mitchell there. And hopefully there's more life in those clutches than 60,000 for the most part. And Brian saw a C7 the other day on the highway. Yeah, it's always still nice to see. Austin says, hey, Matt, did you end up buying anything good on Cyber Monday? I did make one purchase, a Christmas gift on Cyber Monday, but I can't go into any more detail on it because it's still top secret, of course, being a Christmas gift. But yeah, I was able to get something good on Cyber Monday. I didn't get anything for myself. I very rarely buy anything for myself unless it's something for the channel here. I'm just just in money saving mode here with the way the channel's been going recently. So I don't buy things for fun very often. And two says, real question, first in a long time, does the new Tacoma have a 2+2 two-door configuration? Of course you would know, Toyota shill. Yeah, no, so in my Tacoma video, I covered the actual two-door version. It's just, there is no 2+2. It's either you get a two-door, two-seater, or you get the crew cab, four-door thing, which seats 5. So those are the only two options. There's no 2+2. There used to be, I believe, the last generation, like the little jump seat in the back kind of setup. There's no more of that as far as my understanding goes. It's just you either get a two-seater or you get the four-door version. And it's really cool they offer a two-seater though, because no one really offers that anymore, and it's a really cool option to have for some people. And Steven says, if you had a chance to enjoy your tires, I've gotten to drive them a lot more. I haven't had a press vehicle for about a week now, and I don't have one for another couple of weeks here. And so I've been able to drive the Bullet a little bit more. I actually did a little road trip in the Bullet. It was about 7 hours or so on the highway here this week, and not very long, obviously only 7 hours, but it was nice to get out in the Bullet again and hit the highway. And it was to film a car review, which you'll be seeing here in about a week and a half. And it's one I'm excited to post up. If you're a member, you already saw, I just posted an updated schedule today, so you'll know what's coming. But yeah, so been able to drive those tires more. I really am enjoying those Continentals. The grip in the wet was great. I mean, the first time I punched it in the wet, I was like, okay, I'm waiting for the back end to come around, and it didn't. And I was like, wow, this is actually a lot of grip. But it still lets you play around with it a little bit. So I'm actually really enjoying them. I think they actually, now that they've been worn in a little bit more, they have more grip than I was even expecting. And for most, I would say an overwhelming majority of my driving, at least so far here, as far as just usual daily driving stuff, there is actually, to me, no compromise in handling compared to the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S summer tires. So obviously, I can tell there's a little bit more wiggle in the all season, with the Continentals, but it is so minor that unless I'm really tearing down a back road chasing somebody or something, which I like almost never do, it's yeah, to me it's like a basically a wash performance wise, and yet I get all the practicality of not having to swap tires all the time, not having to worry about cold temperatures and stuff. I love those Continentals. They are so good. So yeah, thanks for the follow up there. And let me see. So Kyle, thank you so much for gifting the 5 memberships. Sorry I missed that. Thanks so much for your generosity every week, Kyle, and glad to see some people are able to grab those memberships as well. And but yeah, I really do appreciate it, Kyle, and hope you're doing well as well, Kyle. And yeah, let me know if you have any other questions, though. I always appreciate seeing you hang out here, Kyle. It means a lot. And Dorian says, I drove the mini John Cooper Works for the first time this week. It was really awesome at holding speed. Braking period, of course, but even with that, it's really strong. It's very comfy at 80 and smooth. Well, congrats on taking delivery of that. And yeah, they are a lot of fun. I haven't driven the John Cooper Works of the new generation here, but yeah, I'd love to give it a try at some point. Yeah, even with the braking period, though, I mean, yeah, that motor is so torquey and yeah, so refined with those minis too. I mean, you're getting, again, kind of like a budget BMW in a lot of ways, and it really feels like a high quality product, I think. And now, I don't know if you saw, but they just came out with the new Consumer Reports reliability survey for this past year, and Mini jumped up. I think it's number 3 now. And most people will not believe that and will immediately discount that. But I mean, from the stuff I've gathered, that B48 motor, the BMW motor that they've now put in, this whole generation of the Cooper S, and even the regular 3-cylinder and the regular Cooper, they're solid motors, and it seems like they're really reliable for this generation Mini, which also tempts me to go back to one of those if I ever need something a little more practical, because I still am so sad that my R56 was so unreliable, but apparently R56s are just crap in general as far as reliability. But yeah, glad to see the Mini's treating you well so far, and hope you enjoy it. And T says, Matt, if you're going to shell, can you at least keep the Supra somewhere else? Maybe Raid Shadow Legends should offer you a bigger basement. I wish Toyota gave me a Supra. That'd be fun for sure. I wouldn't say no to that. That'd be awesome. Let me see. Jordan says, we have a 2015 Ford Fusion automatic, but came across a manual. Was that a legit release? A manual Ford Fusion? There was never a manual Fusion, at least as far as I know, especially for that generation. Even the prior generation, I don't think there was. So that must be a custom thing. That'd be kind of cool to see, to be totally honest. And let me see. So see, Spike and Mark got the memberships there, and I see Otto is asking, I've been subscribed to this channel for 3+ years. Why is my name not green? Green is only for members, so people that join. I see someone else answer that for you as well there. So yeah, you have to be a member. Those people actually contribute with a monthly membership, and so that's why they get the priority answering there. So Guardian says, third POV camera setup is my goal for Christmas. Got the triple suction mount, the stick that extends, and now just waiting for GoPro Max. Nice. That'll be pretty sweet. All the angles there. That'll be fun. Yeah, I kind of contemplate about doing more angles and stuff with my videos. The thing about like with the third person kind of POV stuff, as far as having it hang off the back of the car, I'm always so nervous because I've had so many GoPros fall off the back of cars before that like I'm always terrified about putting a GoPro on the back of a car. That's just why I don't really do it anymore for the most part. But maybe suction cups have gotten better. I don't know. It may be something I should revisit because it is really cool, some of the perspectives you can get these days. So and I see Ludacris is thankful for the membership gift there, so I'm glad you're able to get it, and thanks for joining in as well. But let me see, Trunk Car Guy, okay, thanks for giving him the info there on the membership stuff. Dorian says, the Continental Winter Contact OEM version on my 718 Boxer T, they are incredible in bad weather, super grip in cold, and they are fantastic. Yeah, I've never had any experience with the Continental winter tires, but a lot of people run them for sure, and great that they've been good for you too. It's a good recommendation there. And Steven says, hope you get an E-Ray press car if they ever make them. Yes, there is an E-Ray press car inbound. I don't have it scheduled yet, but I'm hoping to get it over the winter here at some point. So yes, stay tuned. I will hopefully have an E-Ray review sometime, hopefully in early 2024 here for you. So should be a good one. I'm very excited to drive a Corvette in snow. It's always fun seeing the looks on people's faces when you're out in the C8 in the middle of winter. I did that with the Corvette convertible they just put on snow tires and sent it to me a couple of years back, and I was driving around with the top down in the middle of winter, and it was so much fun. And let me see. So Jordan says, getting back to your roots of dealership reviews is a solid idea. My husband and I became a fan when you reviewed a Honda Accord Coupe, or did the review the Accord Coupe. Yeah, that was a long time ago, and I'm hoping to still do the newest generation of the Accord Coupe, like the last year or two there, the 2014s. There was someone that offered one of those to me. That's another one I got to get in the car and just go and review it at some point here. So I'm hoping to do that at some point here in 2024. But yeah, thanks for being subscribed all these years. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm hoping to do a lot more of the dealership stuff next year and more of those used stuff as well, just because everything is so expensive these days. And so I think that doing the used reviews is really important, and just something I'm really passionate about, stuff that's affordable that people can actually buy without putting themselves into crippling debt or giant car payments or whatever else it takes to get into some of these expensive cars these days. So I really, really want to focus on more affordable stuff next year. Again, I'll be doing the E-Ray, I'll be doing other fun stuff. But I really have a passion for just trying to meet people where they are with, affordable car reviews. I think it's really being overlooked right now, sadly. And it's, that's why I want to give good advice on cheap stuff as well. That's, not 50 grand and up, so, hopefully that's something that pays off. So far, it hasn't really paid off with some of the used reviews that I did this fall, but I'm hoping to, eventually gain some ground there and get some good views on some of those videos eventually. And let me see. So let me see. So I see Connor's happy about the membership as well. So Dorian says, if there's a manual Ford Fusion, I would have hit that like a crack pipe. Yeah, that would have been really cool, especially the Fusion Sport would have been awesome. B. Mitchell said, actually, that manual Fusion is the real deal. Darn few made. Interesting. So I guess I never knew that they made those. We all learned something new tonight. Thanks for that, Mitch. I'll have to go look into that here after this. That's very fascinating. And Ryan says, you can get a 6-speed manual Fusion with the 1.6 EcoBoost until 2013 or 14. Interesting. Okay, sweet. Well, I appreciate the info, guys. And Austin says, hey, Matt, what are your top 3 bucket list to drive vehicles? Bucket list. I really want to drive a Bugatti Chiron someday. That is up there. If we're really dreaming, I'd love to drive the Gordon Murray T50 with a manual transmission with a naturally aspirated Cosworth V12. Like, yes, please. That would be amazing. So those are the top 2, I think. Other stuff, I really would love to get into all the new Ferraris, especially like the really high-end stuff. I'd love to, try out any of the V12 stuff, particularly, the LaFerrari, the, A12 super fast GTS, all those things I think would be fantastic. And just for me personally, all the Aston Martins, if we really go crazy bucket list, I'd love to drive a DB5 someday, like the one from James, from the early James Bond movies, or any of the other Astons. I'd love to drive a Vanquish. I'd love to drive the Vantages. I'd love to drive, especially the DB10 that they made a handful of, from Spectre there. I think that would be amazing. DBS, any of the DBSs. Yeah, just anything Aston Martin, Ferrari, Bugatti, or the Gordon Murray stuff are probably the top ones for me. Let me see. Steven says, let's get more thumbs up for Matt. I've shared with a couple of friends. Thanks for sharing the channel, Steven. I appreciate it. And yeah, thumbing up definitely helps. The best way to help the channel, though, is just watch the videos all the way through if you can, or at least mute it and leave it running after you've lost interest. But that watch time is really paramount for YouTube. That's the best way to help, is watch the video as long as possible whenever you do click on, for sure. And let me see, Newt, I see, thanks for logging in here to moderate. I appreciate it. And he says, better late than never, right? A little busy tonight, but figured I'd pop my head in and say hi. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Thanks for joining in, Zach. I really appreciate it. And I hope you had a good week here. And I totally can get the busyness thing for sure. So no worries. I know it's tough to make these all the time, I'm sure, for most people, but I appreciate everyone that can pop in and even say hi. It's always awesome. So thanks, Zach, and hope you're doing well. And let me see. So yeah, Trent Car Guy's talking about the gifting thing with YouTube. So someone mentioned previously in another live stream that it's just like you have to turn on gifting, and then like you don't have to actually be in the live stream to even get a gift. It's just like there's a list, I guess, of YouTube has of like people that want Maran Motoring Club memberships, and then whenever the gifts get sent out, I guess YouTube delegates. I don't know if it's first come first serve or how that ends up happening, but they just end up going to people randomly. I have no clue. I wish I knew more about it, but unfortunately YouTube doesn't provide us with any info about that stuff, so I have no clue. Yeah. So yeah, Joe, if you want to, there's always a link in the description here for the memberships if that's something that works for you. But again, no pressure. I will definitely try. We still got another 15 minutes or so here. If I get caught up on member questions, I'll try and go back and answer some non-member questions as well. But Jordan says, do you think Mazda could increase the size of their vehicles for Americans? Yes, and I think that they've learned with the CX-90 that is what they needed to do. I think they will do that more with stuff in the future for sure. I think it makes a lot of sense to do that. And Steven says, I also did also want to tell you I got my 500,000 Chevy rewards for the Z06 and not flipping it, worth 5,000. Nice. That's awesome. And congrats and kudos to you for holding onto your Z06 and not flipping it for a quick buck. It's a really special, awesome car that's worth owning, as I'm sure you're well aware, and hope you're still enjoying yours, or I guess not enjoying it now if winter has set in, but hopefully you can enjoy it more next year. And congrats on getting a Z06. I'm very jealous. That's such an amazing car. I'd love to own someday too. So Carsec Wood says, do you think they will offer the next gen 4Runner with a manual? Seems like it would be a hit and fairly easy since the Taco has a manual as well. I think they will offer it. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that, it would be a really cool thing in the way that, they bothered to do it with the Tacoma. And I think that, if the data is there to support it for them, I think that they will definitely go for it. I think, I don't know. I mean, we'll see how soon 4Runner comes. I still haven't heard anything about 4Runner. But I think what could send a good message is just seeing, in the first year of Tacoma sales here, how many people actually went for the manual. And that'll give them a good barometer of like, okay, well, this is how much demand we have in the Tacoma segment. Can we duplicate that in the 4Runner segment? Is it worth it to keep it around? Or, bring it back here for the 4Runner or not. But I think, if there's a large uptake of manual Tacomas, then I think that could really tip the scales in the favor of the manual. But, they may have already made up their mind one way or the other on that, at this point in the game, depending on how soon the 4Runner's coming. And, we'll just have to wait and see as far as all that goes. I feel like it's probably going to be a while still, but, we'll just have to wait and see. But I do think that, if I were betting on it, I would probably bet the manual is more likely than not. But we'll just have to wait and see. Doug says V8 Vantage would be great. Yeah, I'd love to do another one of those. I did drive an older V8 Vantage, a convertible one, many years ago with the dual clutch that those had, or I think it was a single clutch automatic. But even that was like amazing. Sounds so good. And but I'd love to do more of them for sure. Arturo says Hyundai Ionx 5 Mach-E or Model Y. Well, I mean, it's going to come down to, again, what you prefer, but we were faced with that very same decision. We ended up with a Mach-E, and we're very happy with it here a year and a half later. I think we made the right choice for us. The thing with the Mach-E that sold us, the Tesla was never really in the running because it didn't have CarPlay and it didn't have CarPlay. And what was the other thing that didn't have? The gauge cluster. That's it. No gauge cluster and no CarPlay were immediate disqualifiers for the Model Y. As far as Ionx 5 versus Mach-E, Beth liked the styling of the Mach-E better than the Ioniq 5. I was the other way around. I like the Ioniq 5 styling better, but for us, the Mach-E got one over the Ioniq 5 by the Mach-E having a bigger frunk, by it having wireless Apple CarPlay, which you don't have in the Hyundai. And I think Beth just kind of liked the styling of the Mach-E better. And we're kind of familiar with Ford stuff, so there was some of that at play a little bit as well. But I think just for our needs and what we needed, I think that the Mach-E was better. And even though the Ioniq 5 charges faster, we don't fast charge, unless we're on a road trip, which is maybe once a year, if that, and they're not long road trips typically either. So I think, for us, like the slower charging in the Mach-E wasn't a big deal. So that's part of why, we ended up going for the Mach-E. And also just at that point in time, this was summer of 2022, Ionix 5s were still kind of hard to get. And just the way the trim structures were set up as far as what you got and stuff, it just made more sense for us. But there's a case to be made for all of them, depending on again your preferences and all that. But for us, it was the Mach-E. Hopefully, it helps you a little bit, Arturo. Yeah, let me see. Okay, so Goth Rocker says, just checking in, been really busy. Look forward to the review this week. Thanks for joining in, Goth Rocker. I appreciate it, Rich, and I hope that things don't continue to be too busy here for the holidays, and hopefully you can enjoy yourself as well. But thanks for tuning in and saying hi. And let me see. So Newt says, for sure, thanks. As far as the gifts, you have to opt in to get a gifted sub. Yeah, and then as far as how they pick them, I think it's still kind of a question that I think it's still kind of a mystery. But Doug just says you have to click on your account and allow gifts. If you were in the live streams, you're more likely to get them. Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that was the case. So that's interesting. Okay, so being in the live stream actually does help. Cool. Well, thanks for that insight, Doug. Goth says, do you think Mazda really will make a large all-wheel drive sedan with an inline six? The rumors out of Japan currently say yes. I talked to the Mazda powertrain chief on the Mazda CX-90 program, and I'm like, so when can we expect this powertrain in a sedan? He's like, tell people to buy sedans again. He's like, we won't do it until people buy sedans. That was their stance, at least his stance, in March of 2023 here. The higher ups in Japan might have, swayed that and ended up, telling them to go for it, and they could have overridden the logical side of that. I don't know. I think the consensus with the Japan rumors was that CX-90 is actually pushing Mazda up market the way they had hoped it would, and that they want to keep that legitimacy of an upmarket vibe. And what do all of the German luxury brands that they're trying to emulate, what do those companies have? Luxury sedans. What does Mazda not have? A luxury sedan. They have the Mazda 3, which is an A3 competitor, I guess, if you want to frame it as that, especially with the turbo motor. It's competing with the A3, the CLA, and stuff like that. Kind of, is their aspiration at least. But I think, you need to have a bigger sedan if you're going to try and be premium. And I think that could be part of what sold them in Japan, potentially, if the rumors are true. It makes sense, though, even though, that'd really be the only way to justify, because otherwise, no one buys sedans in enough volume to justify from a money standpoint. But if it gets them to where they want to be from a positioning standpoint for the brand, then that could be a good way to kind of, at least, justify it. Even if the accountants are screaming, that it's going to be suicide or something, they still might just, go for it anyway. I don't know. I have no clue how Mazda is bankrolling all of this and how they're spending all of this money on a brand new platform, brand new engine that's going against the trends. It's really mind-blowing to me, but I'm here for it, and I will be their cheerleader because it is awesome to see, and I hope that it does everything that they hoping and needing for it to do. And let me see. Linda, thank you so much for the super sticker there. I really appreciate the generous support, and it really means a lot. And she says, extra Christmas money and joy. Thank you, Linda. I really appreciate that, and hope you have a great Christmas as well. All right. So I think you were almost caught up here on the member questions. So let me see. Two says, I'm off for tonight, guys. Got to go clean the litter boxes. Matt, we're humans, not cats. And shading myself to the radiator. Good night. Good night, Sue. Thanks for joining in. We'll go for another 8 minutes here. I'm trying to get a couple of non-member questions in too. So Connor says, do you think Subaru will ever bring the Levorg WRX Sport Wagon to North America? I wish they would, but I'm too jaded with Subaru to ever have hopes for anything like that anymore. So it's a very bleak answer, but I would say no. I'm not expecting it. I don't even think I can hold out hope for that. It's just one of those things that makes too much sense for Subaru to be interested in it for some reason. Mark said, FYI, I've turned on my gifting for this channel twice. Not sure why it was turned off the first time. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know why that would be. YouTube does weird things behind the scenes. It's so bizarre the amount of people that like randomly gets unsubscribed or the channel gets hidden and they're like, oh, like I don't know where you went to. I had to like search for your channel and then it popped up and there's all kinds of stuff like that. I have no clue, but I'm glad you're able to get a membership there, Mark. And Steven says, good news on E-Ray. I get my E-Ray tires all seasons put on my Z06 next week. Awesome. Congrats. That'll be fun for sure. And Steven, thank you so much for another very generous super chat as well. He says, a little gas money to take the bullet out to test those tires when it snows. I appreciate it. And thank you so much, Stephen, as well, for the generosity here. And I hope you have a good week. Hopefully you don't get pounded with snow too much here in Illinois there. It's, man, I'd probably be tempted to just like go somewhere else for the wintertime if it gets really bleak there, you know, after the Christmas time. And let me see. Jordan says, I've been the one pestering you about the Ford Lithium concept, but if it came to production, would you bet on it being a competitor to the Dodge Charger EV? Absolutely. It would make a ton of sense. It'd be great. And it'd be awesome, especially with the manual, like they showed it off at SEMA with. I think that'd be really, really cool for sure. And let me see. So Jordan says, your thoughts on Nissan Cube or Honda Element coming back as an EV or hybrid? Perfect timing. I think both are fantastic ideas, especially the Honda Element. That's something I could actually see Honda doing potentially. Nissan Cube, I don't know. I think Nissan, I don't know if that'd be something. Yeah, they're another company that makes some interesting choices, but I can see Honda bringing an Element back. I think this is the right time. I'm honestly surprised they haven't brought it back yet, but I hope that they do bring it back soon because I think it'd be really cool. And Jordan says we live for these live streams, man. I appreciate joining in. I really appreciate all the support and everyone hanging out here. Austin says maybe Bling is a Doug fan. I see Bling says he unsubscribed. I know some people get frustrated about the live streams not getting questions answered. I gotta give priority answering to those members for sure, and just really appreciate show my appreciation for that support. Kevin says I watched a video featuring the designers of the second gen BRZ that said the team insisted on using clay models, which is why the BRZ nose is more curvy than the 86 since Toyota used CAD. Interesting. I never heard that, so thanks for the insight there. I'd be curious to see that video if you want to send a link over at some point, Kevin. I'd love to see that if you don't mind. Yeah, I think they both look great in their own ways, and I'm just happy they're still here. Carsec Wood said you should play a 5-second acceleration clip every time you get a $20 super chat. That would be cool. I'd love to increase my advances with these live streams. I know there's softwares and different streaming plugins or something you can do to get all these different features and stuff. It'd be fun to do more interactive animated stuff like that. I just have no clue, and I tried looking into how to do some of that stuff, and it's just it completely lost me. I mean, I'm not a total I don't know. I'm usually okay with technology, but that's just something that I cannot figure out how to do all this crazy advanced stuff on these live streams like some other people do. But I would like to try and figure it out. Hopefully someday I will, to hopefully make these live streams a little more polished and a little more advanced than just a camera here talking. But it'd be fun for sure. Steven says, when should we expect to see any new Land Cruisers on lots or available? I think they said Land Cruiser was next summer, if I remember correctly. I don't remember what Toyota has said. I don't have any info on those, unfortunately, but I would assume next summer, I think, makes the most sense. It might be a little sooner because I think GX is coming early 2024, if I remember correctly, and Land Cruiser is shortly thereafter. So maybe spring. I don't know. I don't remember what they said. But it'll be coming hopefully in the first half of this year is my guess, or of 2024. Austin says, thanks for another live stream, Matt. Always look forward to these. Me as well. I love doing these live streams with you guys. It's always so fun chatting with everybody here, and it's always just something I look forward to as well. So I'm glad you enjoyed as well, Austin, and everyone else too. Trucking Car Guy says, frankly, wouldn't surprise me if Nissan brought the Juke back over the Cube. Yeah, probably. And Goth Rocker says, I was unsubscribed from your channel twice years ago, even though I subscribed back to your channel back when you had the BRZ. You were the first on YouTube with the BRZ. Subaru shocked us in 2012. Yeah, those were some fun times. But yeah, it's so weird with the unsubscribing stuff. I've heard that from a lot of people, and it really makes me question some days whether I'm actually getting a fair shake here on YouTube. And I don't want to blame the algorithm and use that as a cop out. There's lots of other things I have shortcomings for sure with the channel and a variety of things. But it just sucks that YouTube makes it even harder with some of that stuff sometimes. But Jordan says, did Ford fumble the ball getting rid of the Focus EV? I think there was a lot of potential there to advance it and put the new stuff from like the Mach-E and stuff into a sedan. I think would have been a good Model 3 competitor for them to have. And I'm not sure why they were so experimental and so willing to take chances way back then. And then whenever it went mainstream, it was like, I guess they just went for the money shot with, going for the Lightning and the Mach-E and stuff. But I wish they would have done those fun, quirky things as well still. And Goth Rocker says, I can't lie. I think the BRZ styling is slightly better than the 86. Personally, I can't wait for the Subaru Wilderness BRZ, all that beautiful black plastic. Yeah, we will see if they do a wilderness version. It wouldn't surprise me. I really think a wilderness version of the WRX will be coming at some point too, for sure. And Truck Car Guy says, I've seen several BRZ and 86s here despite everything being flat and straight out here. Well, that's good that some people are still buying them and still enjoying them, even if they don't have curves to enjoy them on. So that's great. And two, thank you so much for the super chat here. He says, imagine a weekly update live stream. Every Toyota news, the comments, Shell. Yeah, there you go. It'd be fun to do a live weekly update. And that's something I may actually do someday. Because there's some of these times where I'm on the road where doing a weekly update is really tough to upload over hotel Wi-Fi and filming in the hotel and trying to, type it all up and get everything all prepared whenever I'm, busy with whatever else I'm doing on the road. It would be easier to do a live stream and just kind of read off the notes and just kind of discuss. And I may end up trying that someday if I really get myself into a pinch, because sometimes it's really tough to get the live stream or get the weekly updates out whenever I'm on the road, which seems to be happening more and more frequently recently. But thanks so much for the super chat there too. And Adam says, are you ever going to make videos on Ram trucks? I've done a few Ram trucks. I was on the launch for the 1500 version when it first came out. I've done the 2500. I've done the TRX. I think I've done most of the main stuff already. I'll be hopefully reviewing the refresh here next year. But yeah, I'm always happy to review the Ram trucks. I think the Ram trucks are still my favorite of the bunch. So I really like them. Jordan says, thank you so much, Matt, for the live streams. Don't change the settings or camera settings. It's real. I'm glad you like them. And I think, just having it raw and simple is also, there's something to be said for that too. But it's not as fancy as I'm sure many of the other live streams you guys probably watch, where people really, go extra with them a little bit more. B. Mitchell says, who snuck the bolt cutters into two? I appreciate the jokes, guys. And Garden says, just promise to upload the live stream after I watch them during lunch. Live streams, these are always available after the fact. You can always go back and watch these if you missed them for sure. And Austin says we need to invest in Strucker Shades for 2. You guys are funny. I hope 2 has been able to hear these and hasn't just immediately signed off. But anyway, I do need to sign off as well because we've hit the 2-hour mark here, and I have to get to bed and get into another week of work here doing the fun reviews here. I got this week is going to be a good one for Jeep fans. I will put a little teaser out, but the following week is going to be another very interesting week. Some really good stuff. There'll be one very, very highly requested review that'll be coming, not this coming week, but the following week. So definitely stay tuned for that. Members, you already know if you saw the updated schedule here today, I posted out. But going to be hopefully a good solid end to the year here with some good stuff in December. So stay tuned for all that. But thank you all so much for your support on the videos, on the live streams here, on everything. I really appreciate it. I hope you all are going to have a great week here this week and enjoy this holiday season. It's always one of my favorite times of year, and I hope it's fun for all of you as well. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.